Alright, we're back for part 2 in this HP Slate 1800 screen repair. The next step is to go ahead and remove the glass from this white bezel. If yours did not come with the frame itself, it's just a piece of glass, the step will be necessary. If it did, just go ahead and skip on to video 3. So a few things we're going to use: a tile section cup, a couple of playing cards, possibly a couple guitar picks if this adhesive's really strong. And of course we'll be needing a heat gun to help loosen the adhesive up. You can use a hot air soldering iron, a heat gun. I've heard of a hair dryer. I've never used one, but it may get it warm enough. The goal is to get the edge of this warm enough to loosen the adhesive, but not enough to melt the plastic bezel. So just be careful of that. You want the glass to be hot to the touch, but you don't want the plastic to get too shiny. Let's keep going around the outside edges, get it nice and warm. Don't sit in one place for too long. That'll cause the burning or really the melting of the plastic. I like to heat up the one edge I'm going to start with a little bit more than the rest. Put our tile suction cup on here in the corner. Sometimes these really flexible pieces of glass can be hard to get a good suction on it. We're just going to pull back and see if we can't get a little bit of leverage to stick one of these playing cards under here. Now, the reason why I like to use playing cards rather than anything else is they won't damage the bezel at all. So if I can start it with this is what I'll do. If not, then I'll use a guitar pick or something like that to get us started. It looks like it's a pretty tight fit, so I'm just going to use a guitar pick to get us started here. Slide it in underneath. That'll give us the leverage we need to get the playing card in. Just slide it up. Now, some of these tablets will use like a foam tape, which it looks like this one's going to have. These are a little bit harder to get to remove than just the 3M adhesive. Basically, the foam is going to rip before the adhesive separates. So you'll be cutting through the foam tape around the entire outside of this display as you're removing it. So we're just going to put our playing card, wiggle it back and forth. We may need to put some more heat on it here. See if we can get the adhesive to loosen up just a little bit more. Now I'm going to leave one card in as a holder to make sure that the rest of the glass is not reattached to the midframe. I'll use a new card to kind of cut through. So I'm using kind of a sawing motion you can see to go back and forth. So whenever you get stuck, you may have to move it back and forth in a sawing motion. Now, you want to be careful of the ribbon cable, that you don't damage it. You can see I stopped the blue card there right before it hit the cable. So if you're looking to replace just the bezel or something of that different on the glass itself and not the glass, and you're looking to retain it, don't cut that cable. When I heat up this bottom side, this is what I'm going to work with next. Get it nice and warm. And just move that card back and forth like in that sawing motion. It can be a little bit hard just to drag it. It does like to hit some adhesive. It's a little warm on the glass there. So we'll leave a card in the corner, make sure that it doesn't re-adhere itself. Use a new card to work our way down. It gets a little bit tougher. I'm going to use a plastic tool to try to get us started again. Give it some more heat. See if we can't get it started. Work our way down the side here as well. Put a card in so it doesn't readhere itself. Give it a little bit more heat down this back side. There's also a foam liner around the interior portion of the glass that you'll probably damage a little bit. That's okay. Don't stress about that too much. Just make sure there's no big hanging pieces when you go to readhere it to the frame. Work our way down. Just be careful of that ribbon cable, and then the last little bit you can just pull right off. And that is the removal of the glass from the frame of the device. Now you can see that we have all this gray like leftover residue. All the bottom adhesive of this is still on here. So what we need to do is go ahead and remove this from the device. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. One is just to scrape it off, which is a little bit more difficult. You can use some isopropyl alcohol. 90% or higher works best. The problem with that is it dries up pretty quick. And the third thing that you can do is use a little Goo Gone. It's an orange kind of more oily substance that'll pull it off. It's a citrus based, which is what I'll end up probably trying to do. See, I'm trying to scrape it off here. It'd be pretty tedious to do this around the entire device to get it clean. You can do it if you're afraid of damaging. So even using my fingernail is pretty difficult. You may have to use a razor blade if you're going to use this method. And even then it doesn't work that great. So here's some isopropyl alcohol. Give it a little bit of time to kind of set in. Use our scraper to scrape this off. It's still being pretty difficult. It probably would work better if I let it set for a lot longer period of time. In the end, what I end up doing is using some Goo Gone. I put it around the entire adhesive portion. I let it sit for probably about 20 minutes. And then I come back and I scrape it all off with that same metal scraper that I was using. And then I take some isopropyl alcohol and then I clean this all up. And you can see the finished cleanup of the frame. This was a lot less difficult. It scraped pretty much right off with the Goo Gone. Now the next thing we need to do is put down some adhesive. Now once we've cleaned it all up, make sure there's no remaining Goo Gone on there, we're going to go ahead and lay down some 3M double-sided tape. I'm going to use a thicker 5mm tape for this because the bezel is nice and thick. Make sure you don't cover up any of the holes here for the camera. And what we're going to do is just shape the edge so it's nice and round, so it fits into the corner. Now I don't think this little hole here is used for anything, but just in case I'm going to leave it empty. We're going to do the same thing for this opposite side. We're going to go ahead and shape the tape so it fits into the round corner. And it seems like the corners are probably the most important portion of reassembly, where it wants to pull off the most. The only thing you don't want to make sure you do is overlap the tape at all. You want it to not go up the side of the frame. You want it to sit nice and flat and right up to the very corner where the glass is going to sit. You don't want any light leak out of the sides of it. We're going to cut a piece to fit just right in between the two holes here. Do the same thing, cut a long piece of tape here, and work our way down the side here. Let's go ahead and shape the tape. And work your way towards the top. Pull it back. Let's lay it nice and flat. It's one long piece here across the bottom. Now the bottom bezel portion is a little bit thinner, so I'm going to use a 3mm tape here. If you don't have 3mm, you can just take a 5 and just cut it so it's a little bit thinner. Just make sure you don't cover up this cable entry portion for the glass on the front. Just going to run my spudger over any of the corners here that before we lifted up. Pull the backing off the tape. Alright, just one last piece of tape down this opposite side. Now I'm doing this just so you know how to do it. So the piece of glass I'll be using is the one that I took off. You're going to want to make sure you clean it the exact same way you did the frame. Make sure all the adhesive is off the back side of here before you lay it down. If yours came with adhesive, then you don't need to lay any down onto the frame itself. Just going to fold the tape over and make sure that there's nothing sticking up blocking the reassembly here. We'll take our display and push it back in. Start with the cable side first in the corners. Make sure it fits in nice and snug and then lay it down. And there you have it. That is the reassembly of the screen after the glass has been removed. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. If you found the video helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. I always appreciate that. And as always, I appreciate you watching the video, and I hope to catch you on the next one. I'm just going to go put this little camera grommet in on the display to make sure we don't forget that. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.